Duncan, I want to start off here with some news that came out this week about some of the exemptions or interim agreements, if you will, that have allowed certain types of productions in Hollywood to continue. And I'm wondering if you can shed some light onto why this is being allowed.
Sure, and thanks for asking that question, Ramin, because one of the things that's really important for us is people understand these are not really exemptions, are not waivers. This is an interim agreement. It's the full agreement that we would have signed with the AMPTP companies on July 12th on the last day of negotiations. It contains every single provision that we are looking to achieve in these negotiations, and we have hundreds and hundreds of independent producers who say these terms of this agreement are reasonable. They are realistic. We would love to sign the terms of this agreement and get to work producing content with your members. And so that's what our negotiating committee has decided to do, which is to say for companies who aren't part of this bargaining group, for companies who don't have a seat at the table, but who are willing to accept these terms, that we can go forward and we can work with them. But it's not a waiver because they are agreeing to every single term that's in that agreement. We would have signed it with the AMPTP on July 12th, and frankly, they should have signed it with us on July 12th, and we wouldn't have had this strike.
All right, I appreciate that clarification there. Of course, we bring you on this week where the writers' strike has hit the 100-day mark a couple days ago, and we reported earlier today that there was at least some degree of discussion, some degree of negotiation, I should say, with some sort of offer on the table. We don't have the details, and it might be some time before we know whether anything has been agreed to. But I am curious that when you look at what you're asking for, what the studios have said in response here, do you anticipate that at any time soon we could actually see everyone in the room together really talking about details? Or are we just not there?
I certainly hope so. The writers are meeting with the AMPTP today. In fact, that meeting may be happening right now, as a matter of fact. And I hope that it will turn out better than their meeting of last Friday. I think the fact that that's happening is encouraging. We haven't received outreach from the AMPTP yet, but I have heard that the CEOs are talking amongst themselves about how to move forward and how to get past some of the stumbling blocks in this negotiation. And as far as I'm concerned, this strike should come to a close as soon as possible. And what we need is for the companies to come back to the table. So them talking to the Writers Guild is great. I'm looking forward to them talking to us and us all finding this path forward so that we can bring the strike to an end.
Bring the strike to an end and talk a little bit about some of your members and what this summer has been like for them. For the working actors, what has this been like in terms of, trying to pay bills, trying to keep going?
It's been really, really hard, not just for our members, but for Writers Guild members and for other union workers and other workers throughout Hollywood who've been impacted by the strikes. But the reality is all of our members know that they are fighting for something that is existential for them. This is about the future of being able to be an actor in this industry. It's about making sure AI doesn't take away their jobs. It's about making sure that they're not making less money now than they made 3 years ago. These are fights that have to happen, and they're going on all throughout our country. So it has been hard. It has been hard.
I have to ask you, Duncan, though, too. I mean, we were talking earlier when Disney came out with their results, and I'm sure as you saw, I mean, there was a certain degree of profitability there that was directly attributable to the strike itself. The idea that added cost isn't there, at least for right now. And I know that's kind of short term, but when you get into this whole idea here of sharing profits, sharing the riches here, I'm just curious, like, how does it make you feel when you see those types of reports?
Yeah, I mean, I know it's disheartening because what they're talking about is the money they're saving by not paying our members and other workers in the industry, the cash they're saving. But in the long run, they're also not creating new content. They're not doing what their job is, which is to create stuff for the public to consume. So it'll have a long-term impact, even if it has a short-term perceived gain. And the reality is, it doesn't affect our members because we are fighting for a long term, for the careers of these members, and that's not a short-term issue.